This is Audible.
Audible Studios presents Echo, written by E.K. Blair, performed by Elena Wolf.
You would have to be half mad to dream me up. Lewis Carroll. Prologue. Bennett. I didn't even take another second after I found out about Nina. Elizabeth. My wife. Jesus, what the hell is going on? The only thoughts in my head since hearing the truth an hour ago are confusion and fear and getting my ass to my attorney's office. I don't know what Nina is up to. Shit, I don't know anything right now. I haven't even had a chance to look at the dossier because I had to make sure that the only other person I care about, aside from Nina, would be taken care of no matter what. My mind is spinning and thoughts are beginning to swarm now that I've made it back to the legacy. Pulling into the garage, I park in my spot, grab the file, and rush inside. It's like 1,000 hammers beating inside of my chest as I push through the doors, raking my hand through my hair. Mr. Vanderwall! I stumble in my step when I hear Manuel call my name from across the lobby. Mr. Vanderwall, he repeats as he stands up from behind the desk. I have something for you. Ice swims through my veins when he picks up a small manila envelope and begins walking over to me. Who delivered this? Said her name was Mrs. Brooks and that it was urgent. She was extremely persistent that you open it right away, he says with an outstretched hand, and I take the envelope. Thanks. Giving a quick nod, I make my way to the elevators. I recognize Jacqueline's handwriting on the envelope and wonder why she didn't just call me. When the doors open and I step into the penthouse I've been sharing with my wife, the panic manifests into an insurgent need to understand what's going on. Tossing my coat aside, I head straight to my office and close the door behind me. I take a seat and immediately open the dossier to find a few photos taken of Nina walking out of what looks to be a residential building, most likely McKinnon's. The thought turns my stomach to think about what she's been doing with him all this time I've been away on business in Dubai. My suspicions started at the masquerade ball. Something was off with her. I could sense it. Her emotions were all over the place. It was evident in her eyes, yet she played it off well and I never really questioned. When travel picked up and I was away for longer spans of time, I grew lonely and thought she might be feeling the same. There was an instance I arranged to have her favorite meal from Cité delivered to her only to find out from the restaurant manager that it was undeliverable because she wasn't home. After I called Richard, I found out that Jacqueline had mentioned Nina not being around as often as she used to. The red flags were there, so I admit I had her followed. It didn't feel right, but I couldn't bear the thought of losing her. I needed to know, and now that I do, and that it was Declan, I want to kill that son of a bitch. More pictures of Nina, now with him, his hand holding hers, her smiling up at him, his hand in her red hair, her arms around his waist, a hug, a kiss, hand on her ass, hand on his face, her body pressed against his, all while standing among the busy city traffic. Fuck. That's my goddamn wife, the woman I love beyond my own life. What the fuck is she doing? And when I flip to the next piece of information in the file, I'm reminded that she's not Nina when I see a picture of her. She's young, really young. A scanned page from a yearbook with her school photo and name printed right beneath. Elizabeth Archer. In ink, there's a note that reads, Freshman year, Bremen High School, Posen, Illinois. Jesus, how did she wind up in Posen? My eyes are fixed on the grainy black and white photo. She isn't smiling, but she's beautiful. I see the woman I married, and when I close my eyes, I can see her, Elizabeth. And now I feel it. Guilt. I set the file down and lean back in my chair while I attempt to grasp onto reality, but my emotions are too conflicting. I can't even think straight. My wife isn't who she's pretended to be since the day I met her. But why? What does she want? I should hate her, be furious, be in a state of rage. Instead, I feel like driving back to the hospital so I can touch her, see her, hold her, and ask her why, and tell her that whatever it is, I'll fix it for her because I love her. God, I love her. What the hell is wrong with me? I should be enraged, right? I take a moment and close my eyes when I feel the pulsing of a headache beginning to form. Loosening my tie, I open my eyes, and they land on the manila envelope. With curiosity, I open it up to find a flash drive, along with a note that reads, Bennett, I don't want to say too much, but after overhearing a very strange phone call Richard was having the other night, I've been worried. I wanted to call you since I knew it had something to do with the company, but after finding this flash drive, I got scared. I don't exactly understand what's going on, but I fear it could be really bad. Please look at this ASAP. Jacqueline. Opening the lid to my laptop, I plug in the flash drive and click on the only file that pops up. It appears to be the company's financial spreadsheet, but the numbers are way off the normal spectrum. I scroll through the information, and when I hit the bottom, I see the account name, and panic ignites. Oh my God. My eyes widen as I lean in closer to the screen because I can't believe what I'm seeing. My stomach lurches when I notice faint noises on the other side of the door. Before I even have a second to think, the door flies open, smashing into the wall. The man's face is a blur behind the stainless steel barrel of a pistol that's aimed right at me. Chills spark throughout my body, causing my lungs to collapse as I desperately try to speak, but he speaks first. You won't ever fucking touch her again, he snarls as he moves towards me with his arms straight out in front of him, marking his target. I quickly stand on weak legs, holding my hands up in surrender, and plead through my crashing panic, Declan, don't do that. Bang. Chapter 1. Bang. Crimson soaks through the wet cotton, spreading its death through the fibers of his shirt as he stands there wide-eyed. My body goes numb as I watch him slowly stumble backwards. The weight of the pistol becomes too much for my delicate fingers to hold, and the gun slips out of my hand, falling to the floor with a thump at the same time Pike does. I'm frozen as I stand here, looking down at my brother. His body begins to spasm, his eyes never blinking, and the gurgling sounds in his throat turn violent as he starts choking on his own blood. I don't move to help him. Instead, as if I'm watching a horror movie, I become a voyeur. This isn't real. This is a dream. It isn't real. The terror in his eyes is chilling as they glaze over, dilate, and stare into negative space. His body stills, paralyzed to the ground, and then silence takes over. It's in this moment that I begin to feel the warmth of blood flowing through my veins, and I move. Inching slowly towards Pike, my trembling body kneels next to him, but I'm too scared to touch him. Is this real? Simply observing, I note a tinge of blue blooming on his lips. I sit, the world unmoving. My mind drifts to a faraway place where nothing exists. It's pure and empty and free from emotion. I settle in this solitary space, breathing in white noise, when suddenly the body next to me convulses. A retching of coagulated blood splutters out of Pike's mouth as his stomach contracts in alarming pulses, and then instantly stops. My heart pounds in an unsteady rhythm as I watch Pike's body soften into the floor beneath him. And when there is no more life, I wake up, snapping out of my trance as reality barrels into me. Holy shit! Grabbing his arm, I panic, jerking him. Pike? Shaking his arm, I murmur in fear, Pike, wake up! Pike, come on! I move to hover over his lifeless body, gripping his shoulders and shaking him profusely, begging louder, Wake up! Wake up! This isn't funny! Tears burn my eyes and I choke on my own words. Wake up, Pike! I'm so sorry! Oh my God, I'm so sorry! Please, wake up! His eyes are still wide open, but there's no movement. They're frozen, locked in place and utterly black. What have I done? Pain stabs my lungs as I throw my head up to the heavens and release the most god-awful severing cry, but there's no sound that comes out of me. The agony is too much, so I wail in a torturous breathlessness. My heart, splintering, ripping apart, takes on a new meaning of misery, creating an emotion that never existed before this very moment, but it's too much. I can't bear it, but I feel its birth inside of me. Looking back down, I no longer see the man I hated only moments ago. Instead, I see the boy who desperately loved me his whole life, and I crumple over, shifting his arms so that I'm able to nestle in the crook against his chest. He's still warm, and like I've done my whole life, I selfishly take comfort from him. I'm nothing but rot, using Pike, even in his death, in an attempt to soothe myself. I wrap myself around him and cry, breathing him into my soul. His shirt is a soggy combination of blood and sweat, yet I can still smell the ever-familiar fumes of his clove cigarettes as I close my eyes. "You're gonna be okay." His whispered voice startles me, and I pop up to look down at him. He's alive, blinking, and I see his lips moving when he speaks again. "Don't cry, Elizabeth. I'm still here." "Oh my God, Pike," I murmur in disbelief. "It's gonna be okay," he assures again, and I cry, "How?" "Because I love you, and I believe in you. You're a fighter, a warrior." "I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to shoot you. God, I'm losing control, but I can't lose you." A hint of a smile appears on his lips. "You'll never lose me. You're my sister. I've never loved anyone as much as you. All I ever wanted in this world is for you to be happy. You're a survivor." "What do I do?" "Run." "What?" I question with a slight shake of my head, and when my eyes meet his again, cold, black orbs greet me. "Pike?" Pinching my eyes closed, I open them back up, but the vision remains. He's dead, and I'm losing it. His words sink in. He's right. I'm a fighter. He taught me how. So with that, I feel my spine straighten, and I take in a couple slow, calculated breaths. I lean down and capture his lips, taking my second kiss of death today. When I pull away, I drop my fingertips to his brows and gently run them down his face, closing his eyelids so that he can sleep peacefully. Wrapping both Pike and Declan safely in the steel cage around my heart, I swallow hard as I shift to stand. Today I lost the two pieces of my black, black heart, but now I have no other choice than to save myself. I move quickly around the trailer, stripping out of my bloody clothes and changing into a pair of Pike's sleep pants and an old t-shirt. I need the smell of him on me because I'm scared to be alone. Gathering my belongings, I make sure to grab the file Pike took from Declan's before I wipe my fingerprints from various surfaces. Looking back at Pike, who lies dead in a puddle of darkened blood, I release a silent goodbye and thank him for saving me by giving me every piece of him. My body fights hard against the boiling pain that's begging to erupt, and I shove the thoughts away that it should be me lying there, dead. At least then I would be with Declan. Declan. Fuck, I'm not strong enough to do this. My chest heaves and the cage weakens as I shut the door on my past and walk into the unknown future with Bennett's gun tucked into my bag. As I pull out of the trailer park and onto the main street, my cheeks are coated with tears. I'm lost. Alone. All I can do is go back to my phony life, because what other choice do I have? 3 men that are all linked to me, have been murdered. Bennett, Declan, and Pike. I try to get focused so I can create a plan on what to do when my gut twists in fear as I see Matt's car pass me by, going in the direction I just came from. Shit. I could turn around, catch him, explain what happened, but then I hear Pike's voice urging, "Don't stop driving." So I don't. Shadows of the city pass by as I make it back home and pull into the parking garage. Wiping down the gun and placing it back in Bennett's car, one bullet short, I rush into the quiet building and up to the penthouse, undetected. I take a quiet step across the threshold, and when the door slams behind me, I collapse to the floor. And this time, when I wail, my voice erupts in a fiery sob that burns in my soul. Vulgar cries, ripping through the cords of my throat as they expel into the hopeless air, echo off the walls and evaporate into silence. Tears mix with the dried blood of Pike and Declan, dripping from my chin, and fall lifelessly to the tile beneath me. When I see the swirled, translucent red, I let go of my voice and choke on my breath. I'm lost in the splatterings of my pain merged with all that's left of my loves. Who do I ache for more? And like the animal I am, with hands braced on the chilling floor, I lean forward on my knees and I lick the blood. My salt. Their metal. My heart's elixir. Peeling off Pike's clothes while I make my way to the bathroom, I stare at the blood that's dried on my body, and with no control, I begin to lick that too. Fingers, hands, arms, knees. I take it all, loving Declan and Pike, making a home for them in the depths of my body, deep inside. Everything's a haze. My only goal is to consume every last piece of vitality. And I cry. Eyes burning. Lungs aching. Hope disintegrating. I'm all powdered ash, so hold your breath before a drift of air picks me up and carries me away to nullity. Nina. Tension aches in my muscles as I stir awake. When I roll over and open my tear-stung eyes, I notice Clara, the housekeeper and cook, moving around the room. It's nearly noon. You've been sleeping all morning. She speaks in a gentle voice before pulling the drapes back. Light flashes, burning my eyes, and I jerk my head away, squinting against the sun's rays that pierce the room. Clara walks around the bed and takes a seat next to me, stroking her fingers through my tangled hair, and the touch awakens the swollen wound in my heart that only sleep can soothe. Tears leak out onto my pillow, and I close my tired eyes. You should eat, dear. It might help you feel better. I shake my head. Food can't heal this. I'm not sure anything can. I've lost everything. My baby, Declan, Pike, everything that mattered to me. And for what? Everyone is dead, and there's nothing gained, nothing but misery. The constricting around my heart makes each breath unbearable, and I desperately want to drift away. More than drift, I just want Declan to hold me, to anchor me by wrapping his warm arms around me, cocooning me into his chest, and filling my lungs with his scent, his life. The one man who showed me what it is to be loved, truly loved, in the purest form, is gone. Gone at the hands of my brother, my other love, my protector. Maybe a shower? Clara suggests, but I don't respond. I just keep my eyes closed. It isn't but a moment until I hear her sniff. When I peek my eyes open, I watch as she brushes the tears away from her cheeks. I shift my body against the tender bruising that remains from Pike's brutal beating a few days ago, the beating that killed my baby and led to the deaths of my husband, my lover, my brother, and my own soul. Clara looks over to me when I sit up and wince. I'm sorry. I don't mean to cry. I don't say anything as I watch her try to recompose her poise through the sorrow she feels. I feel it too, but for entirely different reasons. So I pull on my mask and continue my role, saying, It feels so lonely without him. I keep thinking he's just away on another trip and he'll be walking through the door any minute. She nods while her tears continue to fall and then looks to me. I'm worried about you. I am too. I'll be okay. Bennett wouldn't want you to be suffering like this. What she doesn't know, what nobody knows, is that I'm not suffering for Bennett. I'm not the harrowed widow mourning over her husband. No, I'm mourning over the man I was cheating on my husband with and my brother that no one knew anything about. My hidden life, my clandestine existence. How could I possibly not suffer, Clara? He was my husband, I choke out. How am I supposed to live without him when he was my reason for waking up every day? Because the world doesn't wait on us. It keeps moving and expects us to move right along with it. I'm not sure how to move right now. Well, Clara begins, resting her hand on my knee, you can start by taking a shower and trying to eat something. Her eyes are sad and filled with concern. When I nod my head, a small smile breaks upon her lips, and she gives my knee a gentle squeeze before getting up to leave the room. Turning back to me, she adds, "Oh, while you were sleeping, your attorney called. He'd like to schedule a time to meet with you to go over Bennett's will." This was the moment I had been working years for, the moment Pike and I dreamed about. This was supposed to be the moment that brought me victory and happiness, the money, the power, payback and retribution. And now it means nothing without Pike by my side. I married Bennett to destroy him, but it didn't make anything better. It's just worse. "I'll give him a call after lunch," I respond before Clara walks out and closes the door behind her. Getting ready is a blur. I make the movements, but then can't remember how I got from point A to point B. Clara is in the kitchen, cleaning up after lunch while I sift through the sheaf of messages from all the calls I've missed since Bennett's death. I'm sure it's all over the news, but I can't bring myself to turn on the TV for fear I'll hear something about Declan. I'd crumble for sure. I have messages from everyone. I know I need to contact Bennett's parents, and also Jacqueline, since I can see she has been calling excessively. God, the last thing I want is to deal with these people. And as I'm about to walk away, the phone rings. I let Clara answer it as I head back to bed. "Nina, it's the funeral home," she calls. "They are needing approval on a few final details." Drained of energy, I respond, "I'm sorry, I just can't," before dropping my head and walking out of the room. What the hell do I care about Bennett's funeral? Toss him in the lake for all I care. The bastard continues to ruin everything, even in his death. The anguish wells up into my throat as I fall onto the bed and cry into my pillow. I fucking hate that man. I hate him for everything he was. Misplaced aggression or not, that asshole took everything away from me. I cry like mad, trying to expel some of this misery, but I can't sit still. I lurch off the bed, and in a haze find myself in Bennett's closet, ransacking everything, ripping clothes from the hangers, thrashing shoes across the room, grunting with each volatile purge until I'm against the wall, slamming my palm into the drywall over and over and over. I beg for the infliction of pain, but the only pain I feel is in my heart. So I clench my fist and pound harder and harder and harder and harder. "Nina, stop!" Harder and harder and harder and harder and... Chapter 2. "Mrs. Vanderwall, thank you for coming in. I'm so sorry for your loss. Your husband was a good friend." "Thank you, Rick," I respond as I stand in front of our attorney's desk and shake his hand. "Please," he says, gesturing his hand to the chair. "Have a seat." I look at the man I've known since my engagement to Bennett 4 years ago as he sits down and pulls out a file of paperwork. "I wanted to visit with you personally so that we can go over the terms of your husband's will and estate. I know this is a difficult time for you right now, but the day of Bennett's death, he stopped by to visit me." I nod my head, recalling the phone call that was made in my hospital room. It was the last time Bennett was with me, when he found out that I wasn't really Nina, but Elizabeth, and that I'd been sneaking around with Declan. Declan. My throat tightens at the thought of him, but I push it down to focus on Rick as he continues to speak. A few amendments were made to the will, he tells me, pulling out a sealed white envelope from the file. He instructed me to open and read this to you privately upon his death. Forcing out a tear, I sit and stare, nervous, but I play it as calm as I can. He must have known, he states blankly. I don't understand how any of this is happening. My voice quivers around the words, and Rick hands me a tissue. Have the police said anything to you? No, but they took almost everything from our home office. The last I heard is they think it's business-related. Money will make people do sick things, he says, and the chill that streams under my skin causes a sinister reaction inside of me. He has no clue how close to home his words are hitting right now as I sit and wait to hear my reward for this game of revenge I've played over the past few years. I dab my eyes with the tissue and he asks, "Do you need a moment?" I shake my head, and he takes his letter opener, slicing it through the lip of the envelope. Unfolding the paper, he takes a moment, and I watch as his eyes skitter across whatever is written. Rick clears his throat and shifts in his seat before reading aloud Bennett's words. My beautiful Nina, I'm so conflicted writing this letter. The moment I met you, I knew the man I wanted to be, the type of man worthy enough to stand by your side because you are beyond magnificent. But the conflict there is that you were never the woman I thought you were. I'm pissed at you. I know the woman that lies beneath the fallacy I fell deeply in love with. I don't pretend to have the answers for what you've done, but don't worry, my dear. Don't be scared, because I never told a soul. I'll take my friend, that little girl with the red pigtails, to my grave. Whatever it is that you wanted from me, I hope you found it. I hope that you can forgive me for what happened to you. I don't know the details. All I do know is that I feel responsible. You weren't the only one who was dishonest, though. I lied to you, too. There is no easy way to say this, so here it is. I have a son. His name is Alexander Brooks. The utter shock at those words knocks me back, and I'm disgusted at myself for not being able to see what was right under my nose. He was fucking Jacqueline behind my back, my loving husband and my so-called friend. She was the biggest mistake of my life. It only happened once. The details aren't important, because I've regretted that moment since before it happened, because it was you I wanted. It's always been you. I laid my hand on her that one time, but never again after. Never did I want to, because all I wanted was to be covered in you, to be covered in your love that I felt was so real. But I learned today that it wasn't real. Nothing is real, and I don't know what to believe. What I do know is that I cannot trust anything. I have instructed that this letter only be read in a private setting between legal counsel and you, Nina. It is with this letter that I claim my paternity to Alexander Brooks. A DNA test was conducted shortly after his birth and can be found in a safety deposit box, which I leave to the hereby mentioned custodian, Attorney Rick Parker of Buchanan and Parker. I further move to amend my will to ensure Alexander Brooks is the sole heir to all business assets of Link Steel Co., and that Nina Vanderwall be sole heir to all personal assets upon my death. All monies gained from Link Steel Co., including all materials of the business estate, will be deposited into a trust fund under Alexander's name, which the trustee, Rick Parker, will oversee until Alexander reaches the age of 21. Rick Parker will notify Jacqueline Brooks in a private meeting to go over the terms of this amended will, and I please beg of you, for the sake of my son, that none of this information leave the parties involved. Nina, I lied about one more thing. When I said in my vows that I would love you till death do us part, I wasn't being honest, because I doubt death would be enough to make me stop loving you. Bennett Vanderwall. That bastard. And here I thought I was a good actress, but it was them. They fooled me, played me. They were deceivers just as I was, just as I continue to be. I always knew Jacqueline wanted to fuck my husband, I just never knew she actually had. So now I sit here, stoic. I want to laugh at the circuitous nature of it all, the incessant game that continues to reveal hidden secrets, but ironically, they're now someone else's secrets. Rick sets the letter down and leans forward, pinching the bridge of his nose. Releasing a heavy breath, his eyes finally meet mine. "Did you know?" I shake my head. He shifts in his seat, regaining his composure, but I can see his discomfort slicing through his weak facade. "Well then, as you're probably aware, the majority of his assets are named under the business. That's not to say you won't be left with a considerable inheritance, though." Feigning irritation, my words bite when I state, "It isn't the money I care about." "Of course not. I apologize. I didn't mean to insinuate that." "It's fine. I'm a little overwhelmed with everything right now. So if we're through—" "Yes," he responds, standing and walking around his desk. He holds his hand out for me, and I take it as I stand up. "Thank you." Rick leads me out of his office, and when I step onto the elevator, he sticks his arm out, preventing the door from closing, and offers, "I'm so sorry you had to find out about Bennett like this." Well, I guess nobody's perfect, are they? No, I suppose not. He drops his arm, allowing the doors to shut as he gives me a nod of sympathy, but I would only need it if I cared for the two people that I just found out have been betraying me. Only I don't. His son can have the business assets because, honestly, the money feels tainted now. I'll take it, find a way to start a new life, but that money will always be marked in Declan's blood, my heart's blood. Bennett's death was never worth the life of Declan. Nothing is worth the life of the man who owned every piece of me. Minutes turn hours, turn days. A monotonous routine of depression follows me everywhere I go. The razor-sharp agony of my bleeding heart aches painfully for Declan. I miss him. Sometimes I think if I cry hard enough, he'll come back, as if life would be that giving. No. Life is a piece of shit. It gave me a taste, one taste of sweetness before ripping it away from me. The moment I decided to believe in hope, to believe in goodness, it was taken, only to remind me that I'm all alone in this world. But for once, I wanted to believe. I wanted to dig deep to find the good in me so that I could give it to him, however small of a piece it was. I don my ink, bathed in black, to mourn my loves, but it isn't their funerals I attend, it's his. I don't even have to pretend for family and friends because the depth of my heartache runs deep inside of me, only it runs for Declan and Pike, not Bennett, whose funeral I am preparing to leave for. I have stayed far away from any news on Declan and Pike. Their funerals have come and gone, I'm sure, but to show my face would be foolish. I can't link myself to them if I expect suspicion to remain off of me. After all, I'm the spider's silk that webs this whole game together. Smoothing the wax of deep red lipstick along my lips, I remember how warm they felt pressed against Declan. His sweetness burned into them. Sometimes I couldn't control my love for him, needing more. I'd bruise myself, driven by pure desire. I stand back, observing what's left behind. Soft waves of red hair fall over my thin shoulders, eyes sunken in from the sorrow that eats away at me. But with a few eye drops, my blues beam bright, and I'm reminded of my daddy's eyes that shone the brightest of them all. Loss is all around me. It's all my life has ever been. I run my hands down the smooth black fabric of my shift dress and right myself for my husband's funeral, because this is a loss that I welcome with a full heart. Bennett is one of my few victories, albeit bittersweet. The day is frigid and covered in gray. A light mist falls down on the cold earth as I drive across town to the cemetery where Bennett's parents own family plots. I go alone, the Black Widow. Everything is black, including the limos and town cars that line the winding street, skirting its way through the immaculate grounds of Bennett's final resting place. As I park the car, I take a moment to breathe before I notice Baldwin walking my way, carrying a large umbrella over his head. I haven't seen him since I let him go last week. Bennett is gone, and it's time to start eliminating the remnants of him entirely, including his staff. I always liked Baldwin. I liked Clara as well, but after I let go of Baldwin, I said goodbye to her too. They both understood as I explained my reasoning. Clara was the hardest, because a small part of me always felt connected to her as a mother figure to me, even though she was never mine to claim. Mrs. Vanderwall, Baldwin acknowledges when he opens my door and takes my hand to help me out of the car. Thank you, I murmur, eyes guarded behind my dark sunglasses. His eyes are soft, full of concern, and I can tell he wants to say something, so I give him a smile filled with sorrow, and he nods in shared pain, only mine is deceitful. I loop my arm through his as he leads me over to the burial plot where Bennett's casket is perched above ground, flanked by numerous sprays of fragrant flowers and weeping loved ones. I join them as tears roll freely down my face and drip slowly from my jaw. This asshole they mourn is the pure hate that festers in me, and these tears aren't for him, they're because of him. As I am led to the last empty chair, next to Bennett's mother, my eyes meet Jacqueline's over his casket. I want to smile at that pathetic woman, but I don't, and she quickly looks away from me, shifting in awkwardness. She knows I know. The attorney called me the other day to tell me that he met with her to discuss Bennett's will and trust for their bastard child. I sit. Time passes. Words of hope and the glory and abundance of God wane on. Life is a gift, the priest praises. Bullshit. The sounds of rain trickling down and people crying dissipate the longer I sit. Many stop and offer me their condolences as I cry and pretend the words that were just spoken here were really meant for Declan and Pike. I sit and reflect on them, honoring their lives today, not his. So I nod and quietly thank each person as they one by one turn their backs and walk away, emptying the cemetery. Richard and Jacqueline stop, and in a very out-of-character move on Richard's part, he gives me a hug, albeit short and tense. Looking over to the betrayer, she tilts her head in unspoken sorrow before opening her arms to me. I take her offering for appearance's sake. I'm terribly sorry, she whispers her multi-layered sympathies. I pull back, keeping the interaction short. Thank you for being here. Call if you need anything, she says, which I'm sure is more for keeping her husband aloof than it is sincerity for me. I nod, and then Jacqueline walks off with Richard without saying another word. Only a few people linger when my heart catches at the sight of Callum, Declan's father. I've been purposefully hiding from everything Declan because my heart just can't take the pain, but when Cal's eyes meet mine, I stand and walk toward him. The endearment he always held for me is no longer there, only the stone face of a man who has just lost his son. Cal, I whisper, approaching him as he stands under a large tree. He doesn't speak. I didn't expect to see you here. Your husband was a man I always admired. You know that. I nod and nearly choke on my own fractured heart when I respond on broken breath. Your son. I am so sorry. I attempt to keep myself as poised as possible, as one would expect of a business associate. Because to Cal, that's all I was to Declan. He's oblivious to the fact that we were so in love, wanting a life to call our own, and sharing the dream of having a baby together. A baby that once lived in my now rotting womb. Life isn't fair, darling, he tells me in his thick Scottish accent, and within it I can hear Declan's brogue. I drop my head and hold on as tightly as I can to his voice, never wanting to lose it, when Cal's hand cups my cheek. Looking up into his eyes, his face is blurred from the welling of agony in my eyes. He slowly drags his thumb over my skin and collects my tears as he tilts his head and says, Funny, isn't it? I blink a few times at his curious words before he continues. Both men, murdered in their own homes within days of each other. And police are coming up blank as to who's responsible. His words release a violent chill up my spine, and before I can form a cohesive thought, he kisses my forehead and walks away. I watch his back as the rain falls over him and drop to my knees in the mud. He's the last one to leave, and I'm alone, hands bracing and sinking into the soggy ground, screaming silently, but it's so loud inside my head. Chapter 3. It's been 2 weeks since Bennett's funeral, since I looked into the eyes of my love's father. I'm alone, and I'm drowning. There's no one left in the world for me, and the only place I find any semblance of peace is in my dreams, so I sleep. I used to always dream of Carnegie, the prince-turned-caterpillar my father once told me about when I was a little girl, but lately, when I close my eyes, it's Declan I see. I dream about what our life could have been, living in Scotland in the estate he used to tell me about, having a baby together, loving each other. The vision covers me in warmth, but the moment my eyes open, I am greeted with the dark coldness of my reality, reminded once again that fairy tales are shit-filled lies. Pulling out another suitcase from the closet, I continue to pack up my clothes. I can't stay in Chicago. This isn't my life, not the one I want, because what I want doesn't exist anymore. It's simply another fallen star that I was wishing upon. What I want is the dream. So I decided yesterday that I would go get a glimpse of that dream, of the what could have been, of the what should have been, because the dream is all I have left of him, and I want to see it. I need to see it, to know it was real. So I'm leaving for Scotland. I don't know what I'm doing, but I can't stay here any longer. I continue to move about the penthouse until the phone rings. "Mrs. Vanderwall?" Manuel says when I answer. "Mrs. Jacqueline Brooks is here to see you. Shall I send her up?" "Oh," I murmur, not expecting any visitors today. Yes, please." I hang up, wondering what it is she's wanting. We haven't really spoken since the paternity of her son was revealed, but what is there to even say? It's not like she was ever truly my friend, just someone I pretended to like for the satisfaction of Bennett. I open the door when I hear the knock, and am greeted by Jacqueline holding Alexander in her arms. "Jacqueline, please, come in." Her eyes barely meet mine as she steps inside and slowly walks to the center of the room before stopping and turning around to face me. We both stand here for a moment while I watch her tears well up. "I'm so sorry," she says on a shaky breath, and I shift my eyes to look at her baby. When he becomes restless in her arms, she sets him down on the floor and he focuses on the stuffed frog he's holding. Walking closer, I kneel down in front of him and our eyes lock. I take this moment to observe his features, and beneath the pudge, I see Bennett. I never cared enough to ever look at this child in the past, but I should have, because it's glaringly obvious. He's right there within this little boy, and my stomach knots. My teeth grind when I feel the heat in my blood surging with a need to slam my fist into this baby's face. My palms are actually tingling with desire, begging my fingers to ball so that I can hammer my knuckles into Bennett's legacy. I hate this child because he is the one thing that carries the life of the man that destroyed mine. Alexander reaches up with a smile and touches my cheek, and I have to swallow back the sour bile of loathing. It takes great strength to pull back and not knock this little shit across the room. When I stand, Jacqueline breathes in shame. "Nina, I'm sorry." "Why?" I ask with no influx of emotion. "For hurting you." But I'm not hurt, so I simply respond, "Everybody has secrets, everybody lies, and everybody cheats their way through life for self-fulfillment. We wouldn't do it if we felt sorry. We do it because it's our human right to seek happiness." My words take her by surprise, and when I ask, "Did fucking my husband make you happy?" she takes a deep breath as more tears fall and answers, "Yes." I nod my head when she adds, "But it didn't make me happy to know I was hurting you." People are bound to get hurt in our journey for happiness. If fucking my husband made you happy, don't ever be sorry for that." She tilts her head with a look of pity. "Don't worry about me," I continue. "You didn't break me. You can't break something that was already broken." "He never loved me," she confesses abruptly. "He never wanted me. I took advantage of him when he had too much to drink. I knew it made him sick to look at me after what happened, but he kept up his pleasantries for sake of Alex. He merely put up with me because he refused to turn his back on his son." Jacqueline grows more upset with each word while I stand and listen. Her voice cracks in heartbreak when she adds, "But it was always you he loved." Releasing a heavy sigh, I give her a weak smile, shaking my head and saying, "I guess, in the end, it doesn't really matter. All we are left with is ourselves." She wipes her cheeks and takes a couple deep breaths in an attempt to compose herself before reaching down to pick up Alexander, and then asks, "So what now?" "That's a good question, one that I need to find the answer to, but I won't find it here." "You're leaving?" "Yes," I say with a nod. "Where to? For how long?" "I don't know," I tell her, not wanting her to know, and when I give her son one last look over, I turn my attention back to her. "You aren't the only one with secrets. We all have them." She gives me a slight nod and starts moving towards the door. I follow and say goodbye to the woman who blindly found herself tangled in my game of lies, but she'll go back to her husband, Richard, who believes that baby is his, and continue to live her life while I get myself ready to go see what could have been mine, if only. "I'm sorry, Elizabeth." My heart catches at the sound of his voice as I close the door, and when I turn to look over my shoulder, I see his face, and suddenly I'm soothed. He stands right by me, dark hair, sad eyes. "Why?" Pike hangs his head, shoving his hands into his pants pockets, and I can see the tension in his muscles under his ink-covered arms. "I took that away from you," he says as he raises his eyes to me. "Took what?" "What she has. What you deserved." "Maybe you did me a favor," I respond. "I would have been a shitty mom anyway." Shaking his head, he counters, "No, you would have been a great mom." Pike takes in an uneven breath, and I can feel his regret with each word. "I'm sorry I took that away from you." Truth is, I don't know what kind of mom I would have been, but I was willing to take the role with Declan by my side. I trusted him to keep me together, trusted that his love would be enough to make me better. But I'm not better, and without him, I'm nothing. Empty. "It's life, right?" I say with a defeated shrug of my shoulders. "Not the life I wanted for you," he says, stepping closer to me. "All I ever wanted was to give you a better life. All I wanted was to rip that lock off that door when you were little and cut you free from that fucking closet. I wanted to take away all the times I was forced to rape you. I wanted to take away all your beatings, all your hurt, but I fucked up." With no need for my steel cage with him, I let my tears fall, and I cry because that's all I ever wanted, for my life to disappear. I want to forget all the horror. "I never meant to destroy you like this." "I know." "I panicked. I got scared, and I lost it," he tries to explain through his strained voice that threatens to break. "I miss you so much, Pike. I don't even know how to live anymore. I have no one, not one person on this earth." I cry and then crumple to my knees, but he's right there with me on the floor, hand on my back, as I heave and sob. "What do I do?" "You live." "How?" "You breathe. You fight. You take everything that was meant to be yours in this life because you deserve all of it." "I'm just so tired of fighting for nothing," I tell him. Taking my face in his hands, he wipes my tears, saying, "You're not alone. I'm here. Do you feel me?" "Yes." "It's not for nothing. Never stop fighting." I close my eyes and relax my cheek into his hand, taking in his touch and truly feeling him. With a deep breath, I inhale his words and search for comfort in them, search for any shred of strength to breathe, to move, to open my eyes. And when I do, he's gone. Looking around the room, there's no trace of Pike, no movement, no smell, no sound. Sitting back on my heels, I observe the penthouse, the illusory world I've created, and I hear his faint whisper, "This was your creation, and you were strong enough to master it." And he's right. I was strong. But that's when I had something to fight for. That fire in me is gone. Only ash and embers remain, echoes and shadows, darkness and death. Pike is right, though. I need to move. If I'm going to live, I need to remind myself that there is good in this life. Even if the good comes in minuscule drips, I have to believe the pain is worth those moments, because I've experienced it. It was real and alive, and I would go through this agony all over again, just to feel the love of Declan for one more second. I never thought the world could be that good, but it was. For that moment. It was so good. Picking myself up off the floor, I steady on my feet before grabbing my coat and keys. As much as I've been avoiding the reality of Declan's absence, I need to face it, to remember that it was real, and it's worth this pain. I pull my car out onto Michigan Avenue and start heading north. The city is alive and moving all around me. I ignore the excitement and smiles and keep straight to River North. Turning onto Superior, I slow down. Suddenly, I feel cold, and my clammy hands grip the steering wheel more tightly. There's a sick churning in the pit of my gut as I roll the car along the curb in front of Declan's building. Shutting the car off, I sit for a moment in the stillness. The only sound is the pounding of my heart as it beats through my chest. This used to be my solace, my little piece of heaven located at the top of this building. When I get out of the car, I look up and see the greenery on his rooftop courtyard, but I know that's the only life up there. His name is no longer on the intercom system in the lobby, only the number for the realtor that is listed to sell his penthouse. The coolness of the steel on my fingertip hollows me even more, and the masochist in me begs to push the button. So I do. I buzz his floor, knowing that this time his sweet voice won't be greeting me. Instead, it's my phone. Pulling my cell out, I look at the screen but don't recognize the number. As I take a few steps back toward my car, I answer, "Hello?" "Miss me?" It takes a moment to snap out of my thoughts of Declan to recognize the voice on the other end of the call, and a surge of panic flashes through my system. Quickly composing myself, I answer steadily, "What do you want, Matt?" "We need to talk." "About?" "Do I really need to say it?" he taunts, and I don't need a reminder to know that when I passed him in my car the day I shot and killed Pike, he was heading straight to his trailer. Words aren't needed. We both know what I did. "When?" "Tomorrow." "I can't," I tell him as I get back into my car and shut the door. "You have something better to do?" "As if my doings are any of your business, but yes, I'm leaving town, so if you'd like to talk, it would need to be done today," I bite in irritation. Matt has always been a source of friction for me. I've put up with him because of his friendship with Pike, but he's always given me the creeps. Still, there's a part of me that's grateful for him, because it was him that gave me one of the greatest gifts, and he gave it from a pure heart. Probably his only moment of selflessness. Matt was the one that gave me my first taste of revenge when he set the stage for me to murder my foster parents, my payback for the years of abuse. So as much as I despise Matt, a part of me is thankful for him. 30 minutes, Tribune Tower, he suggests. Fine. Hanging up, I toss the phone over to the passenger seat. Hearing his voice makes me even more anxious to leave this town, to run far away from this place and from everything I know. I start heading back towards Michigan Avenue, and once I've parked the car, I walk over towards the Tribune Tower. The streets and sidewalks are flooded with businessmen and tourists. Making my way through the crowds, I cross the street and wait for Matt. My attention is on a street performer who's playing an old Otis Rush number I recognize on the saxophone. As people walk past him, dropping dollar bills and coins into his open sax case on the ground, I get lost in the smooth melody. I watch the man and wonder about him. He's old and gray, dressed in tatters of worn clothes. His dark skin is aged with deep wrinkles, and even though his knuckles are worn and ashy, they move with grace along the keys. By looks alone, you'd think he was lonely and sad, but the sway of his head as he plays is a sure sign of happiness. But how does one, who appears to have nothing, find joy? I want to ask him how, but I stumble on my feet when I'm knocked off balance, only to find that I'm now in Matt's arms. He grabs me from behind and turns me around to face him. With a hand on my back and the other holding my hand, he moves me in a slow dance to the music. His sly grin rakes at me, knowing the pleasure he's taking in having me this close to him. If it weren't for the mass of people around us, I'd push him off of me. The last thing I need is to cause a scene, so I allow him to lead me to his liking while keeping my eyes downcast.
Don't look so miserable, Elizabeth. People are watching us.
Biting down, I muster up a weak smile and raise my head to meet his eyes. They're dilated dope black, but that's nothing new. It amazes me that this druggie I've known since I was a freshman in high school hasn't wound up overdosing. Pulling me in closer, he rests his cheek against the side of my head, whispering in my ear,
"You miss him?"
"Yes." I don't answer as I focus to keep my composure in front of him, but inside I can feel my wounds ripping deeper. His hand wraps further around me, tugging me in close while we continue to dance on the bustling sidewalk in front of the Tribune Tower.
"If you're worried, don't be,"
he continues softly.
"I took care of it."
When I pull my head back to look at him, confused by what he means, he adds,
"I made it look like a deal gone bad. Cops questioned me, and I confirmed their suspicions."
"Why?" I ask, wondering why he would want to protect me.
"To ensure your loyalty."
A fury of heat ignites my neck with the realization that this punk sleaze was able to undermine and trap me to him. "What do you want?"
"I'm not ready to collect on my investment right now."
He responds with a grin I want to knock off his face. "You're a sick fuck," I sling at him. "Using Pike for nothing more than a transaction."
"You're one to accuse of using. I watched you use him since we were kids."
"You don't know anything about our relationship," I snap in defense.
"I know that he loved you and sacrificed everything for you."
"And here you are pissing on the both of us."
"You should be thanking me for keeping your ass out of prison,"
he throws back at me, and then mocks.
"What was Pike, anyway? Number 3, 4?
"Fuck you, he was my brother." Gripping me tighter, the saxophone continues to fill the air around us as Matt dips me and seethes under his breath.
"No, fuck you, Elizabeth. He was my best friend and you killed him. And for what, I have no fucking clue because he never did anything but give you everything you ever wanted."
He then pulls me back up, and I feel like I'm about to explode in hate at this piece of shit who doesn't know a goddamn thing about the truth of me and my brother. He has no idea what the two of us endured and how it fucked us up for life. When Matt kisses my hand, I realize that the music has stopped.
"Don't stray too far, Kitty. Remember your place in this equation. I'll let you know when I'm ready to recoup the debt you owe me."
He jeers before turning his back to me and walking away. I watch as he disappears into the sea of people, thankful that he has no clue I'm about to hop on a plane to Scotland. If he thinks he can use me as a pawn, I won't do anything to dismantle that thought, because pride is a faulty wire that will ultimately burn you. Chapter 4.
The crackling of the fire fills the room. Darkened in the dead of night, the only light coming from the nearly extinct embers.
I've been hiding away in my home office all week, panicked and on the search for anything to weave my way out of this fucking mess. Knocking back 2 Xanax and a hit of whiskey, I pick up the phone. My fingers tap incessantly against the Bacodi desktop as the ringing pierces my ears in this silence that's consumed me. Hello? It's me. Everything okay? Rolling back in my chair, away from the desk, I pinch the bridge of my nose and bite against the oncoming headache. She's on her way to Scotland. How do you know? Because I'm still hacked into her accounts. I just thought you should know. Thanks, is all he says before hanging up on me. Chapter 5. I grip the ratty, red-headed doll more tightly while everyone sleeps around me, 40,000 feet above soil, as the giver of my doll lies 6 feet under. While I was packing, I found the gift Pike had given me on my 10th birthday, stuffed in a box in my closet. I remember him being embarrassed about the doll, having stolen it, but I loved it, and I loved him for being the one person who truly cared about me at a time when I was so alone. This doll was the only good memory of that birthday, because shortly after he gave it to me, I was forced to face the demon in the basement, the demon that would utterly destroy me and mold me into the monster I am today. "Would you like something to drink, dear?" the flight attendant asks softly. "No, thank you." With my mind racing, I can't settle down to sleep. I keep replaying these past few months in my head, over and over. I miss Pike, but it doesn't even compare to the ache of losing Declan. I hate that in his last hours his perception of me was tarnished. All I wanted was for him to believe I was good and pure, the way he always saw me, but in the end, he discovered it was a lie. That dossier touched the hands of the men in my life, but it was Declan's hands that hurt the most. It took me a while to open up that file to see what exactly was in it, but when I did, there's no denying the facts from fiction. Declan knew I was a liar, a foster kid, a con artist. It kills me to think about how he must have felt when he realized the truth about me, because all I wanted was to love him, comfort him, and make him feel safe with me. Who am I kidding, though? I could never love the way a man like that should be loved, but I was willing to try. "Tell me what you're feeling," I remember him saying as I allow my mind to drift back. "I hate this," I said. "I hate every moment I'm not with you. You're all that I want, and I hate life for not being fair to us. And I'm scared. I'm scared of everything, but I'm mostly scared of losing you. You're the one good thing that's ever come along for me. Somehow, in this fucked up world, you have a way of making all the ugly disappear." "You're not going to lose me." "Then why does it feel like it's slipping away?" "It's not. I promise you, it's not. You're just scared, but you have me now. I'll take all that fear away, every piece of it that you carry around. I'll take it away. I'll give you everything you deserve from this life. I'll do what I can to make up for all your suffering." I couldn't ever dream of a better man existing, and I never wanted to fall in love with him, but I did. It was wicked and vicious and utterly beautiful, and it was mine. For a moment, he was mine. And now, he's dead. And so am I. His blood is deep inside of me. I made sure of its home, but it isn't enough to save me. Nothing is enough, and the anguish is boundless. There's no release, no cleansing, no Pike to take it all away. I've lost my vice to relieve the ache, to give me my escape, to numb me. It's overpowering, a red river of loathing, a debilitating and suffocating stabbing in the core of my very essence. It breeds inside of me, and my body chills in anxiety. A shrill ring echoes in my ears. Bleeding, screaming, a tourniquet around ventricles pleading for relief. "We could have a life. You love me, right? I know what I want, and that's a life with you. I'll do whatever it takes to get that." Memories of his words strangle me, a noose tightening around my neck. I can't breathe. "Excuse me," I stutter breathlessly as I stumble in a rush to the lavatory. Locking the door behind me, I brace my hands on the sink and stare into my hollow eyes. I attempt to inhale slowly, but my body doesn't allow it. A sheen of sweat coats my pale face, drained of blood, and the hunger inside of me needs to be fed. I need to expel it before it kills me. My fist takes a life of its own, balling up and slamming itself into my sternum. Again. Again. Knuckles pounding against frail bone, and with every inflection the ringing in my ears dulls and my lungs begin to fill with much-needed air. I punch myself again and again and again, over and over, busting capillaries with each violent blow. Warmth spreads through my wounded flesh, and when my cheeks heat with tears, I fall back onto the toilet, my hands pressed against the wall of the tiny bathroom as I pant from exertion. My mind clears, but I'm confused by what just happened and why it brought me relief. Pleasure, really. The tormenting sadness is gone, freed by the pain I just unleashed on myself. That was the moment I discovered my new drug. It no longer came in the comfort of Pike or Declan. No, it came from the devil's hand, my hand. And in that moment, I felt a sense of power in my ability to stave off the misery with a blissful brutality that births an endorphined high. Sighing in refreshed relief, I stand and right myself in front of the mirror before lifting the hem of my top to see the destruction on my body. When I observe the blood pooling beneath my skin, swelling in pink glory, I smile in pride. Contusions mar my skin in reward, and I'm pacified. This is pain I can deal with. No longer do I have anyone to lean on to alleviate this discord inside of me. All I have is myself. So with a sickening delight, I enjoy my moment of assuagement before returning to my seat to cradle my doll. Landing, customs, baggage claim, and rental car. Here I sit in the parking lot, on the other side of the world from where I just came from. Alone with no plan, no direction. I sit awkwardly on the right side of the car, wondering if I'll be able to drive without killing myself or someone else. No time like the present. Here we go, I murmur to myself, and then shift the car to pull out of the parking space. As I leave the airport and start driving through Edinburgh, the scenery astounds me. Declan wasn't lying when he said the landscapes were breathtaking. Freezing rain falls from the dark gray sky over the old-world city. Stone buildings from another lifetime line the streets, and I'm in awe of the historic beauty. Horns honking pull me away from the sights, and I quickly yank the steering wheel when I realize I'm entering a roundabout the wrong way. "Shit," I screech while waving my hand in apology to the other drivers I nearly sideswiped. Driving on the opposite side of the car, opposite side of the street, has me tense and thrown off. Turning out of the circle of death, I resume cautiously until I find a place to stop to get a bite to eat. I'm drained from traveling, and when I walk into the quiet restaurant, the hostess sits me at a table towards the back of the small dining room. "Water?" the woman asks, hair the same shade of red as my own, piled up in a bun on top of her head. "Please. Flat, sparkling, or tap?" "Flat," I answer, and then watch as she walks away, dazed in my unfamiliar surroundings. These people are clueless to the world I just left behind, to the people I destroyed, to the beast I am. They sit, chatting quietly, very different from the loud and boisterous American manners, and I settle in the hushed atmosphere, looking over the menu. "Here you go," the waitress says in her thick Scottish accent as she sets the carafe of water on the table after pouring a glass for me. "What can I get for you, lassie?" Unsure of the menu choices, I tell her, "Something warm and savory." "You're American?" I smile and nod, and she then suggests, "Rumbled thumps." "What?" "Traditional Scottish dish. Will warm you up from the cold weather." It takes a few extra seconds to decipher her words through her accent. I never had difficulty understanding Declan, but this woman's native tongue is coded much heavier than what I'm used to hearing. "Thank you," I respond, handing her the menu, and after I take a long drink of water, I pull out my phone to attempt to get a game plan together. Once I gain access to the internet, I type in the name of the estate Declan told me about. I remember him telling me it was outside of Edinburgh, but I can't remember where exactly. All I know is I need to see the house. I need to know it's real. I need to see what could have been mine if only I'd run with him when he asked me to. Pulling up the search engine, I type in Brunswick Hill Estate, Edinburgh, Scotland. It takes only a few seconds for the property to pop up on several different realty websites. I click on the first link, and when a picture of the estate pops up, my stomach sinks. Sitting here, I don't breathe as I stare at the home Declan begged me to live in with him. I swipe the screen with my finger to view the other pictures. One by one, I see what was so close to being my life, my fairy tale. It's just as he described. A Victorian mansion set with immaculate grounds covered in lush greens, flowers, trees, and the grotto. I recall Declan telling me how much I would love the grotto that's built from clinker. Why didn't I run with him when he asked? Scrolling down the page, I note the realtor as being Knight Frank. After taking a few minutes to read the online brochure of the estate and looking through the rest of the photos, my food arrives. I take small bites of the potato dish, trying to find comfort in the richness, but my knotted stomach makes it difficult to enjoy. Beneath my skin, wounds slowly split. Setting the fork down, I start searching online for the public records on the house. It takes a little while, but I finally find what I've been trying so hard to hide from. But it's here in black and white, right under my fingertips. The words informing that the bank ceased the estate, and the date this occurred was only a few short weeks after Pike shot Declan. I can still taste his blood from when I took my last kiss. I read further to find that it didn't take long for the place to resell to a private buyer using an undisclosed trust. I've come to know through Bennett that this isn't an uncommon occurrence among the wealthy, but regardless of the new ownership, I still want to see it. I mark the address and pull up the directions to find it's located about an hour away in Galashiels. Taking one last bite of food, I get the attention of the waitress so that I can pay and be on my way. Chapter 6. Sleep well? Yes, I reply to Isla, the innkeeper, as I pour myself a cup of hot water from the kettle sitting out in the main dining room. As I was driving through town last night, I came across this little bed and breakfast and figured it would be a nice place for me to stay while I'm here. Isla greeted me when I arrived, and despite being halfway across the world in a foreign country, something about her demeanor set me at ease. She welcomed me, settled me into my modest room, and quickly excused herself, which I was grateful for. I was beyond exhausted and fell asleep as soon as my head hit the pillow. "So what brings you to Gala?" she asks. Dipping a tea bag into the mug of water, I'm not sure how to answer. I'm so used to lying and hiding my real self that honesty seems alien. Truth is, I'm not even sure I remember the real me anymore. And then I wonder if I ever truly did. I've been faking it for so long. The last time I remember really feeling in place within this world was when I was 5 years old. It's like the second my father was stolen from me, so was my identity. And when he died, that identity did too, and all I was left with was a shell of what used to be me. I tried filling the emptiness with hopes and dreams, but that was a waste of time. Then I turned to Pike, using him to fill me with voidance and comfort. And then there was Declan. "Are you okay?" Isla questions with concern in her eyes, pulling me out of my thoughts. "Mm-hmm," is all I can manage around the agonizing block in my throat. After taking a slow sip of my hot tea, a desperate need to find myself takes over, and I do something I haven't done in a very long time. I tell the truth. I lost someone close to me. I came here to feel closer to him." "Oh, dear," she sighs. "I'm so sorry to hear that." Her aged eyes are filled with sympathy. Through look alone, she speaks in silence, and I can see the understanding and the pain of her own. "I apologize for being too honest. I didn't mean to make you feel uncomfortable." "Nonsense. If a woman my age can't handle a little honesty, well, she hasn't truly lived then." "I suppose. And she's right. Hell, I feel like I've lived 1,000 years on this earth. I doubt you could say anything that would shock me at this point. I bet there isn't a pain that exists that I haven't felt." "Will you be staying long?" she begins and then falters her words. "I'm so sorry, hon. It was late when you arrived, and your name is failing me right now." It was in this moment, with this elderly lady that seemed to have answers to questions I had yet to discover, where I made a choice. I thought I had nothing left to lose, but that wasn't fact. You see, somewhere deep inside of me was that 5-year-old girl. She held the identity I lost so long ago, and I wanted it back. "Elizabeth," I tell her, "and I'm not quite sure how long I'll be staying." "Well, Elizabeth, it's nice to have you here. I won't take up any more of your time. If you need anything, please let me know, okay?" "Thank you." I take my tea and head upstairs to my room to unpack and freshen up. After I'm dressed and have settled my belongings in their proper places, I look at myself in the easel mirror that's set in the corner of the room. Ivory slacks, taupe cashmere sweater, nude pumps. Clothes I acquired while living my con. They scream Nina, but I'm at a loss as to what is Elizabeth. Who is she, really? It's been so long since I've been her. I feel like I left her that fated day when my father was arrested. I've lived most of my life in a tomb, hiding from the afflictions of this world, until I became Nina. And now I'm a hollow illusion, a druxy dressed in gossamer. I tuck a lock of my wavy red hair behind my ear before grabbing my keys. With the address to Brunswick Hill punched into the car's navigation, I follow the highlighted route that weaves me through the narrow streets up a winding hill. It doesn't take long to hit Abbotsford Road, and I know I'm close. But not to him, only to his ghost. My eyes sting with unshed tears as I round the bend and see the green sign on the stone gate wall that reads Brunswick Hill. I'm locked on the sign as my chin trembles and my soul bleeds from the inside, filling me with the poison I feed from. It's real. This place, the place he wanted to give me, it's really real. Pulling the car off the side of the road, I don't realize how tightly my fingers are wrapped around the steering wheel until I let go and feel the ache. When I step out of the car in front of the wrought iron gate that hides my could-have-been palace, the phantom of death hangs over me. Loss is consuming. Emptiness is overwhelming. Sadness is everlasting. My feet move on their own, closer. I breathe deeply, praying for the scent of him to fill my lungs that don't deserve it but crave it. It's nothing but sharp ice, though. Frigid, as my hands grip the cold metal of the gate, tears begin to fall from my already swollen eyes. The fissures of my heart begin to rip and shred, burning, stinging, piercing agony erupting. My knuckles whiten as my grip strengthens, and the misery and regret explode in a vile rage. Jerking my hands, shaking the gates, I lose myself in a maniacal outburst. I scream into the bleak clouds, scream so hard it feels like razors slicing through my larynx, and I welcome the pain, pleading for it to cut more deeply. Slamming the gate back and forth, metal clanging, ice severing my flesh, I sob. I make it hurt coming out. Bitterly cold tears stain my face as my body takes on a life of its own. I want him back. How hard do I have to cry to get him back? Why did this happen to me? To him? To us? I just want him back. Come back! My voice shrilling in the air. Please, just come back. Thrashing around, drowning in wails, my body tires. My hands are frozen, continuing to cling to the bars of the gate as I fall to my knees. I feel my core chipping away while my body heaves. Desperate to catch my breath against my pounding heart, I close my eyes and lean against the wrought iron. Soon, my deep gasps turn into childlike, desolate whimpers. I just want someone to hold me, to touch me and tell me it's going to be okay, that I'm going to be okay. I want my brother, my daddy, my love. I'll take anyone just to get some relief. So I sit here on the cold concrete and cry, alone. Snow drifts down, weightlessly, falling over me as time passes. The whistling wind through the trees awakens me to the dropping temperatures, and I don't even know how long I've been sitting here when I look up and through the gates. Wiping my tear-stained face, I stammer to my feet and try to get a better look at the property, but it's hidden behind the trees. On the other side of the gate, the drive winds up a hill and through a mass of snow-covered trees, and beyond that is a mystery. But I know. He told me all about the house, the grounds, the flowers, the glass conservatory. I look around to find a way in, but the gates and stone wall are nearly 9 feet high, and there's no way of climbing over. What's the point, anyway? It's not like anything's waiting for me on the other side. I'm not even sure why I'm still here, and when I look down at my reddened, almost maroon hands, bloodied from the ice cuts, I know it's time to go. Dear, are you all right? Just slipped on some ice while shopping, I lie as Isla notices my dirty, wet slacks from where I spent most of the day sitting on the snowy ground. I know I look ghastly, and the part of me that's trained itself well wants to poise up, but the weakness in me begs to slump its shoulders and take the embrace I know Isla would be willing to give. I don't know which way to go. You're a terrible liar, lassie, she says as she takes my hand and leads me over to the dining room table and sits me down. She rushes into the kitchen and quickly returns with the kettle as well as a cup and saucer. I watch as her frail hands pour the hot water and dunk in a tea bag before setting it down in front of me. I don't refuse her accusation that I'm a liar. I'm too emotionally drained to play games. And then she remarks, Your eyes look like they hurt. And they do. I've cried more in these past few weeks than I have in my whole life. Pike taught me how to shut off my emotions, act like a machine so that no one could hurt me. And he taught me well. But the strength it takes to turn it all off is beyond what I feel I'm capable of at the moment. My eyes are a constant shade of pink, and the salt from my tears has burned through the tender skin that surrounds them. Makeup only irritates it and stings, so I go easy with the powder in my feeble attempt to look as presentable as possible. But I have to wonder why I'm even concerned about how I present myself. I'm thousands of miles away from America. I'm no longer pretending or fighting because I've already lost. I don't want to be Nina anymore. I don't want the stupid life of Mrs. Vanderwall. It's over. There's nothing left of it because everyone is gone. Maybe, just maybe, I can stop fighting, stop the lies, stop fearing and hiding. For the first time since I was 8 years old and left to decay in Posen, maybe now I can finally breathe. I just wish I knew how. It's been almost 21 years of suffocating, and when I look over at Isla and see the years marked in the wrinkles of her face, I give her a little more truth. I went to the home he used to own. She reaches across the table and places her hand on my arm. You said you lost him. What happened? Did he leave you? Yes, I choke out, trying to hold back my tears. He died. Bless you, dear, I'm so sorry. Swallowing hard, we both sit for a while before she breaks the silence and tells me, I lost my husband 8 years ago. Nothing can compare to the pain of losing the man you give your spirit to. When you put everything you have, everything you are, into the one who promises to take care of you. You become transparent and utterly vulnerable to that person, and when he's taken away, so are you. And yet here you remain, left to continue living your life as if you have something to live for. Then why go on living? Well, she starts, looking over to the fireplace mantel where a menagerie of picture frames line the wooden structure. For me, it was for my family, my children. It took a while, but eventually I found the strength to pull myself together and live for them. I scan the array of family portraits and candid snapshots, and when I turn back to Isla, she smiles, asking, "Do you have children?" Her question hits me hard. I'm not sure how to answer because it wasn't that long ago that I did have a child, a baby, a tiny baby growing in my womb, and now that womb is empty. So I keep my answer simple. I don't have any family. It's only me. Your parents? Shaking my head, I repeat, just me. Instead of telling me how sorry she is about this fact, she does her best to encourage. You're so young. You have time in this life. For me, I was an old woman when my husband passed on. But you have youth on your side. You live for that. You're beautiful. You'll fall in love again, and you have time to create your own family. I don't think I'm strong enough to fall in love again. I'm also unworthy and undeserving of love after everything I've done. Maybe not now. It takes time for wounds to heal, but there will come a time when you'll be strong enough. I'm smart enough to know that not all wounds heal, but I nod and give a weak smile before standing up. I should get out of these wet clothes, I say, and excuse myself from the room. After a hot shower, I tend to the cuts on my hands and then wonder why I even bothered to do so as I pick up a bottle of sleeping pills from my toiletry bag. The pills lightly pad against each other as I roll the bottle in my hand. I keep wishing for some sort of relief, some comfort, but it's been here the whole time, right here in this bottle. What's the point of life when life has nothing but vile hate for you? My body is numb, a casket of waste. I feel nothing in this moment as I consider my escape. I don't want this life anymore. I never wanted it. I'm outside of my body, standing next to a pathetic woman whose bones now protrude through colorless skin because she refuses to take care of herself. I look at her, slowly deteriorating. She stops rolling the bottle of pills in her hand and stares into the translucent orange before popping the lid off. Do it, I encourage. Put yourself out of your misery. I know she hears me as she moves gracefully, pouring the pills in her hand and then lifts her head, staring across the room at nothing in particular. Just do it, Elizabeth. Everything you want is waiting for you. They're all waiting for you. And then she does it. Holding her hand to her mouth, she dumps the pills in and takes a long drink of water from the glass on the bedside table. I walk over to her when she lies back on the bed and run my fingers through her hair, soothing her the way a parent would a child. I meet her craving for tender affection. She looks peaceful in the stillness of the room, breathing in a soft, rhythmic pattern. I notice tears puddling in her blue eyes, but she doesn't cry, and I know she's ready. I just can't do it anymore, she whispers to herself, and then closes her eyes as she lets go of the fight. Sometimes, for some people, the fairy tale only exists in death. Chapter 7. When I opened my eyes and found myself in the same room I fell asleep in, I had to laugh at how pathetic I was. I couldn't even kill myself. Instead, I just gave myself one hell of a nap. And there I was, greeted by another day after a lousy, botched suicide attempt. Everything inside of me was paralyzed, yet my body still moved. Did you know it was possible to have feelings with no emotions? You can, and I'm proof of it. I performed the same actions of the previous day with detachment, and it wasn't long until I found myself back at Brunswick Hill. I spent hours there, sitting outside of the gates and crying for my lost love. And the next day, I returned. And the day after that. And the day after that. And even the day after that. It's a pathetic routine I refuse to break because, for some reason, as upsetting as it is to be at the estate, it allows me to feel connected to Declan. And I need that connection because I don't have anything else to hold on to. So I cling to the forlorn fairy tale that never will be. It's a little over a week that I've been coming here, spending my days crying, pleading, bargaining with a god I don't even believe in to bring him back. Isla now looks at me with pity every evening when I return to shower and sleep. We don't speak much, but it's mostly on my part. I've allowed the wall I spent my whole life building around my heart to crumble to dust, and I've never felt weaker than I do now. Not even when I was being molested by my brother when I was just a child, or when I was bound up in the closet and locked away for days on end. No, this is much worse. I drive in silence over to Abbotsford Road, and when I round the bend, I slow the car down as I see the new owners pulling up to the gate. They haven't been around since I've been coming here. Chills run through me as I drive past the gate and follow the winding road until my car is out of their sight. I'm hardly thinking as I follow my body's movements, quickly parking the car and hopping out. Walking back to the gate, I catch the taillights of the SUV as it enters the private drive, and I rush to the gates to slip through before they close completely. Curiosity gets to me, but it's more than that. It's a feeling of ownership, as if this place is mine, because once upon a time ago it was going to be mine, but time wasn't on my side back then. It still isn't. I step off the drive and into the snow that covers the ground beneath. I duck behind trees to remain unseen and start exploring the grounds. Steep hills are covered in bushes and trees that the cold weather has consumed to a barren state. If I close my eyes, I can picture the lush greens and colorful flowers that would come to life under the warm sun. The beauty is still visible, though. Everything looks pure and virgin, coated in the fluffy white powder. Looking up, I can see the house perched at the top of the hill. My heart grows heavy, sinking down into my gut as I peer up through the trees to see the stonework of what was supposed to be my palace. I continue to weave deeper into the trees, wandering about when I come across a small, man-made, pebbled creek that winds down one of the small hills. It's covered in frozen water, and there's a small wooden bench at the bottom where it rounds out into a tiny pond. And now it hits me. Taking a slow spin to take in my surroundings, nestled within this beautiful place, I realize this resembles what I've spent my life dreaming about. A small forest. Carnegie's magical forest. The thought brings me a warmth of comfort along with a cleaver to my chest because now I feel I've lost even more. Time passes as I explore, getting lost in my head with fantasies of what could have been and memories of what was. When I get closer to the top of the hill, I can see the front of the house between the branches. It doesn't look like any home I've seen. It's grand and dignified, adorned in large pieces of stone that embody this 3-story structure. A massive tiered fountain stands proud at the center of the circle drive. It's covered in snow, but it doesn't take away from the beauty. Shrubs line the perimeter of the house, but there are several gaping holes in the hedge, missing bushes that have probably died in the frost and been removed. Everything is so pristine, except for the mess of randomly missing shrubs. I take a few steps to try and get a closer look at a small building sitting off to the side of the house when I hear a door close, startling me. Quickly turning, I stagger on my feet, moving deeper into the trees to hide. A car starts. Shit, I murmur under my breath, and I know I have to quickly get back down to the base of the property without being seen. I see the black SUV making its way down the drive, and I rush towards the gate, trying to keep my balance. There's no way I'll be able to scale the wall to get out if that gate closes, but there are hidden patches of ice I'm trying to watch out for, slowing me down. Grabbing onto tree trunks for balance as I make my way down, I notice the SUV stop from the corner of my eye, and in a panic to get to my car, I make a run for it. I'm close to the gate, and I take a look behind me to see the SUV moving again. When I turn my head back around, I stumble, crouching over to duck under a massive branch hanging too low. My shoe catches on a patch of ice, knocking me off balance. Taking a huge step to get my slipping feet back under me, I plow down several feet, falling hard onto my stomach on the drive. My palms sting as I try to catch my fall on the icy gravel. Not wanting to get caught trespassing on private property, I do my best to hop up to my feet. "Hey!" a man shouts at me, but my pounding heart that beats in my ears muffles him. I slow my step and stop, cursing myself for being so foolish. Turning around, the man's car door is open, and when he steps out, my lungs fill to the brink of their elasticity. Everything that's been working so hard at keeping me alive soothes, and my hands fly to cover my mouth in utter shock and elation. Oh my God! Confusion and fear and anxiety swarm through my veins. Everything stops. Time stands still. I can't move, can't blink, can't breathe. My eyes scan his figure as the seconds falter between us. This isn't real. You've been out in the cold for too long. You're upset and hallucinating, Elizabeth. It isn't real. But he moves. He's alive. Oh, thank God he's alive, but how? Something between a gasp and a cry rips out of me. I can't help the thankful smile that grows on my lips that are hidden behind my hands, and I prepare to run to him. He's alive and on solid ground, not buried in the dirt of the earth like I've believed this entire time. He's whole and beautiful, and I need to cover him in my warmth just as much as I need him to cover me, to heal this suffering that's been gnawing through my flesh and bone straight into the fibers of my cells. I breathe in holy relief as he steps away from the SUV. "What the fuck are you doing here?" I drop my hands, stunned beyond what I can comprehend as his harsh tone slays every piece of hope my foolish heart just resurrected. "You're real?" I question, but my words are barely audible under my panted breath. My pulse is turbulent, and I'm not sure if what I'm seeing really exists. "You left me to die, you manipulative bitch." No. My brain races to defend, to take away the hate that is utterly obvious in his eyes. His words are suffused in it, leaving them to poison me. A menace to once was. "You lied." His words come quick as rage boils behind his glare. "No!" I grapple with words that I can't seem to find in my state of shock. I want to ask him if he's real again, but the venom on his tongue scares me into justifying my actions. "You cunt." "Please, no, it wasn't like that."
"What was it like then, huh? Tell me what it was, Nina."
A knowing grin creeps upon his lips, evil, as he takes a step closer but still much too far for me to touch.
"Or is it Elizabeth? Who the hell are you?"
"I don't know," I murmur shamefully, and then continue. "I don't know who I am. I haven't been me in a very long time." My words are like knives carving pieces out of me. They hurt when I confess. The only thing I know I am is yours.
"Tell me I wasn't your goddamn pawn."
"This was never supposed to happen, Declan. Please."
"What? You turning me into a murderer? That wasn't your plan all along?"
"I love you. Please. You have to understand." I plead against his wrath. In 3 quick steps, his hands are on me, gripping my shoulders, swinging me around as if I weigh nothing, slamming me violently against the side of his car. I can smell him, and suddenly there's no more pain. His fingers pierce into my flesh, bruising me instantly, and it feels like kisses on my skin. He yanks me closer towards him before smashing me back against the car again, seething through clenched teeth.
"You're a sick fuck. Nothing but street trash."
He takes in a deep breath and then adds,
"That's right. I know all about you and that punk kid you ran around with."
It wasn't supposed to end like that, I try convincing. I fell in love with you.
And like what, huh?
The way it did. His hands drop from my shoulders, and before I know it, he's got his hand wrapped around my neck, choking, pinning me against the SUV, and I savor the heat of him against me.
I killed your husband,
he snarls, beautiful breath bathing my face. I didn't want that, I gasp on strangled breath.
What did you want?
Looking up into his eyes, they're blurred behind my welled tears when I tell him, you.
I should kill you.
My hands cling to his wrist, urging him to tighten his grip around my throat. Do it, my words, an offering of atonement. I've lost everything, and out of that everything, you're the only one I would have given up everything for just to have one last touch. His grip weakens, but his hand remains firmly in place, and when I watch our breaths unite in small clouds of vapor between our lips, realization crystallizes. My God, he's alive. Letting go of his wrist, I reach up and run my hand along his stubbled jaw, and the comfort in the touch flays me entirely. A disgustingly raw sob erupts from my bleeding heart. I want to crawl inside of his skin and drown myself in his blood. I want to swim in his marrow.
Don't fucking touch me,
he barks, wrenching my hand off of him. I'm a mess, though, unable to contain my emotions as they pour out of me. I thought you were dead. For weeks I've been mourning you.
Get the fuck off my property, bitch.
His words cut me off. I shouldn't be stunned at them, but the snarl in his tone is startling, and I quickly shut my mouth. He then grabs a hold of my jaw, forcing my chin up as he looks down on me, and I don't recognize the devilry in his eyes. He pisses his words.
You're nothing more than a shit stain, so fuck off. I'm done with you, understand?
Please, don't.
Nod your little head and tell me you understand.
The urgency to explain everything to him is powerful, but I know he'd never hear my words with the hatred in him right now, so I obey with a nod. I understand. He lets go, not giving me a second look as he turns away and gets back into the SUV. I look at his beautiful face through the windshield. I never want to take my eyes off him, and it kills me to know that I have to. He glares at me with daggers as I feel tears running down my cheeks. I'm so sorry, I say, even though I know he can't hear me, and then turn my back on my prince that I so selfishly molded into this monster. Walking away, I'm confused. There are a million feelings and reactions, and I have no clue which one to grab onto. I don't know how to begin to process the fact that I just saw my angel of death in the flesh. I felt his heat, smelled him, heard him. It was real. I see Pike all the time. I even talk to him, but there's never a smell, never a temperature to his touch. It's how I know the difference between hallucinations and reality, but this is real. He's alive, but at what cost? He doesn't resemble the Declan I knew. That man was firm, yes, but he had light in him that shone through his emerald eyes. But this Declan, he's hard and cold, and it's all my fault. I knew pushing him to kill Bennett would destroy him, change him, take away his pure spirit. He looks as worn as I do, his frame more slender, a lack of color in his skin. I ache to touch him, taste him, make him see that this was all a terrible mistake, that loving him was my saving grace, make him understand how everything changed and changed from a place of honesty I never knew I held inside of me. How am I supposed to live in the same world as him when he hates me so much? How do I right the wrongs of my past? How do I find a hope worth living for when my one hope would rather me dead than alive? Chapter 8. Torment is the deep well I bathe in daily. It covers me entirely as I sink beneath the surface, feeling its particles soak into the pores of my decrepit skin. Seeping through me, It consumes, wallows, and dwells so I can feel every ounce of its torturous abuse. Black is the color that stains my insides. Declan used to color me in vibrancy, but that's when he loved me for the lie he believed I was. I'm a sick woman. Deceit paints my rotten soul, and he now sees me for what I am. How could I destroy a man as wonderful as Declan? He was a good man, a loving man. His touch was firm yet tender. But now, after seeing him a couple days ago, he's so different, callous and filled with venom. Worst of all is knowing that I did that to him. I'm the culprit. I'm the cause. I touched him and turned him into a monster. But even as a monster, I want him. I'll take him in any form I can because I'm so thankful he's alive, that Pike didn't kill him. Glory and joy somehow illuminate this bleak heart of mine and rejoice in the flesh and blood of his existence. Where do I go now? What do I do when all I want is what I know he'll refuse? Another touch, kiss, smell, taste. But once I get it, I know I'll want more. It'll never satisfy, never be enough to feed the hunger I have for him. My soul is starved, and he's my sacrament. I want to skin him with my tongue, loving him with every lick. Alone is where I sit, though, here in this bed and breakfast, in this room I've been calling home since I arrived. Too scared to go back to Brunswick Hill for fear of what will greet me. Declan isn't a man one can push. He thrives on utter control, so keeping my distance is the only choice I have right now unless I want to throw him over the edge. And I don't. I want him to be able to see that not all of it was a lie, that I did love him, that it was real, that I didn't want to destroy him the way I wound up doing anyway. I need him to know that, to understand his heart was something I wanted to take care of. I still do. Hours pass as I sit, staring out the window at the snow-covered hills, wondering what my love is doing. It feels strange to be in a world where he exists and to not know, to not be a part of that world with him when we had become so enmeshed with each other. He was a part of me, still is. He lives within me. I can feel him in my bones, breathing inside of me, keeping me alive. He is all I have to live for. I grow impatient and anxious in this room, feeling like a caged animal. I grab my coat and scarf and head down to the car. As I drive the slick streets, I wind up on Abbotsford Road without thinking. It's all I know in this town. It's all I crave. I tell myself I won't stay long, that I'll just drive past, take a quick look. But when I make the sharp turn around the bend, I slow the car down and stop. Was it all a dream? A hallucination? Looking at the gate, I wonder if I was really on the other side. Did I just want it so badly that I dreamt it up? I know I shouldn't be here. I know what I did to him was so awful that seeing me will only make it worse on him. I want to give him that space, the courtesy of staying away because I know that's what he wants. But I'm too selfish. I want him too much, and now that I'm here, the energy collides inside of me. I want to jump over that wall, run up the hill to his front door, break it down, storm the property to find him, hug him, cling, paw, scratch, and ravage him like the animal I am. Tingles dance up my fingers, into my hands, and up my arms. I can't sit still. Hopping out of the car, I rush over to the gates, grab onto them, and shake them, screaming at the top of my lungs, "Declan, please let me talk to you! Declan, please!" My voice strains as I plead and beg for him. Tears begin to coat my cheeks as I call his name, because simply having it on my tongue and lips feels like a kiss from him. So I scream even louder, a protest of my love, and my voice shrills painfully as I call out, "Declan!" over and over and over again. I don't stop. I can't. I'm nothing without him. I'll die without him. He has to forgive me. He just has to. I can't live with him hating me as much as he does, so I fight these gates, screaming and crying and breaking, falling to my knees, absolutely crumbling. I'm weak as my voice slowly gives out, and I have to catch my breath around my pounding, severing heart. Dropping my head, I weep while the damp ground seeps through the fabric of my pants. I startle and jump up when the gate begins opening. I turn to see the black Mercedes SUV he was in the other day coming up the road. Desperate to talk to him, I run out in the middle of the street, blocking him. He slows and stops, and with my hands on the freezing hood of his car, emotions overwhelm as I beg, "Declan, please. Please let me talk to you. I love you, Declan." My words fall out in a blubber of panicky cries as I look at him through the windshield. The car shifts under my hands when he puts it in park and then opens his door. Menacing eyes greet me once again, but I'm frantic for his attention. "Declan, please, just let me talk to you."
"I thought you understood that I didn't want you coming back here,"
he snarls in his thick accent, stepping in front of me. In quick movements, he grabs my arms in both his hands. Faster than what I can fight, Declan drags me over to my car while I cry, "Please stop. Just give me a few minutes to explain."
"There isn't a goddamn thing you could possibly say to me."
He then yanks me around so I'm facing away from him and slams my front side over against the car, knocking the wind out of me and pinning me down. With my arms bound in his hand behind my back, he presses the side of my face into the hood with his other, needling against the ice. His body hunches over mine and his breath heats my ear as he seethes,
"In case I didn't make it clear, I fucking hate you."
"You don't mean that," I whisper, pissing him off even more as he grabs a fistful of my hair and snaps my head back. My neck stretches, sparks of pain shooting through my tendons, and the chrick of my hair, popping out from the roots, ripping flesh along with it, sears my scalp in pricks of fire. I scream, but he doesn't let go.
"You've got balls, darling. Coming here, knowing one phone call is all it would take for you to be arrested and extradited."
"Why haven't you done it then?" I question through clenched teeth, and he yanks harder, ripping out more hair from my scalp. Gasping in agony, I push him. "Tell me why."
"You think it's because I care for you? You're fucking delusional."
"Then why?"
"Because seeing your face makes me want to kill you. I thought you'd be smart and leave, never come back. Yet here you are," he says.
"You won't hurt me." The sudden force of his hand shocks me, and I scream out in pure, white, heated pain. My hand flies to the back of my head, trembling as I touch the bare flesh. Tears fall, and when I turn to look at him, he's holding a chunk of my hair. I can feel the blood trickling down the back of my neck. He stares, no emotion, while my body pangs in agony, but I've dealt with pain and abuse my whole life. I've been beaten, whipped, tied up for days, and one thing I've learned: physical pain is much more tolerable than mental pain. Bruises fade, blood dries, scabs heal. Sucking in a deep breath, I bring my hand in front of me, and it's covered in blood. "You won't hurt me," I repeat, and it's now that I see the torment in his eyes. There's no doubt he's furious, but there's a void, a hollowness that didn't used to be there.
"You sucked the life right out of me. I don't give a shit about you anymore," he says,
and then drops the lock of my hair on the ground.
"I pray you put a bullet in your head."
I let him go without saying anything as he turns to get back in his car. I bite my tongue, knowing I'll only make him feel worse if I continue to speak. I'll give him a reprieve, but I won't back down. I'll find a way to talk to him, to explain everything. I've manipulated my way around obstacles in the past. I can do it again. After I watch him drive past me, and the gates close behind him, I walk to the side of the road and scoop up a handful of snow. My body tenses in preparation for the pain, and my hand shakes as I reach back. Flinching, I slather the snow on my bloody scalp and hiss against the sting that singes my head. I scoop up another handful and pack it against my wound, and once my body stops quaking and numbs, I slip into my car and drive back. "What happened?" Isla questions urgently as I'm walking up the stairs. Excuse me? I respond when I turn around. Coming up the stairs, she looks worried. There's blood all over your back, lassie. Oh, what's going on? Are you hurting yourself? No, I quickly blurt out. Do you need to call someone? The police? No, I'm fine, I defend. It's fine. Her eyes narrow in annoyance as I avoid her questioning. It's not fine. Now you tell me what's going on or I'll call the police myself. No, police, please, I tell her, and decide to just lie. It was a clumsy accident. I slipped on some ice and hit my head as I fell. She gives me a suspicious look before nodding. You should get yourself checked out by a doctor. If it starts to bother me, I will. It looks much worse than it is, I try assuring her. Once I'm in my room, I head into the bathroom to check out the damage. The blood mats my hair, and the strands are dried to the wound. I peel some of the hair away, and it rips the forming scab, causing my head to bleed again. I know I could wet a towel and clean myself up, but I relish the pain. It distracts and takes away from my annihilated heart. The misery inside of me swells and grows, so I continue ripping the scab apart, pulling my hair, and focusing on that pain instead of my internal pain. I can't release it, but I can mask it, and so I do. When I feel the heat of blood seeping out, there's a release of euphoria that delights me. I savor this momentary distraction and enjoy the blood tickling my skin as it rolls down my neck. It's all I focus on as I sigh in relief and close my eyes. Chapter 9. Callum. Don't fuck around, inmate. 5 minutes. The guard I paid off barks as he shoves the disposable cell phone against my chest. I need the card. I already programmed the number in the phone, he tells me, and then hands me a small folded-up piece of scrap paper. The verification code. I nod, and he scowls in return. Make it quick. Punching in the numbers. I don't have to wait long for the call to go through. Hello, my longtime friend answers. The one I planted in my son's life to ensure I have all my bases covered. A man who presents himself as a loyal entity to Declan, but whose loyalties de facto lie with May. I don't have long, I say. How the hell are you calling me? I heard you were locked up. I was arrested before I could make contact with my associate after receiving the call about Nina's whereabouts. Now I sit here in jail at the Manhattan Detention Complex, waiting for my case to go before the grand jury. I have my ways. Look, I don't have time to bullshit. I need you to move the money from the offshore accounts and put it into Declan's foundation. No worries, he responds obediently. Use his foundation to wash it and make it appear as clean as possible. Got it. I also need you to keep your eye on Declan. I want him followed. After the shooting, he's been off, if you know what I mean. The kid is fucked up, Cal. Yeah, well, that's his issue. You need to make sure my issue is the one you're protecting. Got it? Wrap it up, inmate, the guard snaps at me. That money needs to be moved yesterday. I'll handle it, he responds before the phone is snatched from my hand. Chapter 10. Eating one of Isla's Scotch eggs I've come to enjoy and sipping on hot tea, I flip through a local Edinburgh publication. It's been several days since my last run-in with Declan. I've been holed up in my room, crying and feeling defeated, wondering what to do, where to go, and how to move on in this life. I spoke to Pike last night. He lay in bed with me. We haven't done that in such a long time, and I forgot how very comforting it felt. I was finally able to breathe. He spoke to me, soothed me, and in that moment he was real. My head knows it's a phantasm, but my heart refuses, so we talked, cried, and eventually he made me smile. When I woke this morning he was gone, but somehow I still feel him here. I remember when we were kids, and even living in the vilest circumstances one could imagine. When I was in his arms, I was okay. He was magical in that way. So was Declan. Both of them loved me and healed me in entirely unique ways. Pike reminded me of my strength, and I showed him the back of my head where Declan had ripped out my hair. I told him that I continue to pick at the scab and make myself bleed to feel better, proving to him that I'm weak, that I can't handle the pain anymore, so I create my own. A pain I can control and use to mask the true ache that runs deep inside of me. But he assured me that what I'm doing is a symbol of strength. The fact that I refuse to let my emotions control me and instead control them is a testament to my vitality. I decided to take his words and apply them to Declan. Instead of letting him control me and keep me away, I will take control to get what I want. I've done it before. I can do it now. Pike is right. I've been allowing myself to crumble and feel as if I'm nothing on my own, but he reminded me that I'm not, that I've always been strong. Reminded me that even though I no longer have him as my vice, I'm powerful enough to create another. "It's so nice to see you eating," Isla says as she walks out from the kitchen and into the dining room where I sit. "I've been a little under the weather," I excuse my lack of presence. She sets down a bowl of mixed berries and eyes the magazine I'm flipping through. "I found it on the coffee table," I offer. "I was thinking about getting out of town and going into the city for a day trip." "Have you spent any time in Edinburgh?" "No, I drove through when I arrived, stopped for a quick meal, and then came here." "It's a great town," she says, and continues to talk, but her voice fades into the distance when I turn the page. She's muted noise, and everything around me tunnels as I focus on the eyes looking up at me from within the grains of the paper. Dapper as always, in a vested, tailored suit, no tie, and top buttons unfastened. The very essence of Declan, unkempt in a classy way. His face a couple days unshaven, and I can remember the way the bristles felt against my lips when he kissed me. The way I would find comfort in running my hand along his jaw. Setting my fork down with ease, my pulse slows in admiration and shock. I hone in and examine every curve and line of his face. That used to be mine. No more, though. He loathes my very existence, wishes me dead, prays for it, but that filters out, and what remains is the lovingly harsh way his hands felt on my body. The good of Declan takes over my thoughts, and I rush back in time to where he would look at me with his powerful eyes that told so much in the depth of emerald. They would nearly illuminate and brighten when his emotions of adoration were on high, and dull out, blackening when desire and his need to claim and control would ignite. This man is built in impermeable layers, but I was the one he allowed to seep in. I guess the same could be said in reverse because I let him in as well. Isla's touch pulls me away from my love when she touches my arm. "Are you okay?" "I'm sorry," I say with a slight shake of my head. She nods to the photograph in the magazine. "No need to apologize. With looks like that, you can't help but become distracted." Laughing, I agree. "Yeah. He used to live in Edinburgh before moving to America years back. A perpetual bachelor that the lassies would fawn over." "You know him?" I question. "Of him," she clarifies. "The McKinnons were a prominent family here, but tragedy struck and they soon found assuage in the U.S. But recently, Declan, the son, returned." I hum, feigning nonchalance. "He lives here in Gala, you know." "What happened?" When she gives me a wondering look, I clarify. "You mentioned a tragedy." "Oh, yes. Declan's mother was murdered in their home. Callum, his father, soon left, but Declan stayed in Scotland for a while. I think I read somewhere that when Declan finished his studies at university, he moved to the States and went into business with his father. They've both been living in America until Declan's recent return." I want to correct her, tell her that Declan parted ways with Cal and was making a strong name for himself as an international real estate developer, but I'd rather her not know my link to him. "He attended St. Andrews at the same time Prince William did," she adds with enthusiasm. but I don't care about the trivial anecdotes she seems to take pride in. Anxious to be alone, I take my last bite of egg and excuse myself. "Do you mind if I take this with me?" I ask about the magazine. "Of course not." "Thank you." When I close the door to my room, I sit down at the small desk near the window and open the article with Declan's photo. Alone with my love, I run my fingers over his face and pretend it's real. I shut my eyes and try to smell him, but there's nothing except the lingering fragrance of my perfume in the air. I look back at him and then begin to read the article that the photo accompanies. I feel my smile grow the further I read, and when I discover a charity event where Declan will be the guest of honor, I know this is an opportunity that I must take full advantage of, and I will. I continue to read the piece that boasts about the charities Declan supports and advocates for. I note the function where he will be honored is being held this Saturday evening at his alma mater, and start scheming. After reading the article a couple days ago, I went ahead and made my day trip to Edinburgh, but not after making a few phone calls. The foundation that Declan is being honored for, and has become one of the main financial contributors to, is one that strives to offer valuable education to underprivileged children. Knowing there will be so many eyes on him at this event, I think it will be the perfect opportunity to talk to him. I doubt he would cause a scene, but rather be forced to be cordial for the good graces of the attendees. He'd have to stand there and listen to me. So I went ahead and became a donor myself, and the sizable check I wrote secured me a seat at the event. As I stand in front of the full-length mirror here in my hotel room in St. Andrews, I run my hands down the lace overlay of my navy dress. The thin material hugs my petite form, just barely skimming the floor. I wear my hair down in soft waves to hide the still grotesque wound on the back of my head. I continue to pick at it daily, and it's grown in size. I don't want it to heal because it's the only physical thing I have to represent Declan. His gift to me, created by his own hands. He gave it to me, and I refuse to let it go. It serves a multitude of purposes. It's my vice, my pain reliever, my trophy, my reminder, my solace. My love, branded into my flesh, and I own it happily. When I'm satisfied with my appearance, I pick up my invitation and pashmina before heading down to the lobby. The car I called for is already waiting out front, and my heart beats in anticipation as the driver opens the door for me. I've granted myself permission to be vulnerable ever since I woke up in the hospital, exhausted from the emotions I finally allowed to erupt inside of me. But now it's time to focus. I know what I want, and I need to do whatever it takes to get Declan to talk to me, to hear my words, and to understand and believe in what we had. To know it wasn't a lie, not all of it. To know I didn't want him to kill, I didn't want to use him or betray him, but that everything spun out of control so fast I couldn't stop what had already been set into motion. When we arrive and pass through the gate of St. Andrews University, I take a moment to admire the historic buildings, aged to refinement. The car jostles along the cobblestone road and slows in front of a building that's adorned with rustic, fire-lit lanterns and a red carpet lined with press photographers. It's foreign that I would attend an event alone and not know a single person, but I refuse to let insecurity taint me. The car stops, and I watch women dressed to the nines in their designer gowns and men in their kilts and fly plaids. I take a hard swallow, straighten my spine, and reach out for the hand of the usher who opens my door. "Miss," he greets with a nod. "Will you be joined by a companion?" "No." "May I escort you?" "That would be lovely," I accept graciously. I feign my right to belong and mingle among what appears to be the high society of the UK, wealth and prestige, but I'm good at what I do, veiling the disgust that molds me as the vile human I really am. Looping my arm through his, he introduces in his heavy brogue, "I'm Lachlan." I look up at his broad, clean-shaven face and smile at the 40-something-year-old man with dark hair distinguished by flakes of silver. Putting on the charm I perfected while married to Bennett, I remark with flirtation, "And where is your companion?" I'm without as well.
Really? That surprises me.
And why's that?
Truthfully? I question, lifting a brow to create amusement, and when he smiles and nods, I'm blunt, telling him, "You're startlingly attractive. I find it hard to believe you're not here with a little tart attached to your arm." His chuckle is deep and rich when he responds,
"Oh, but I do have a beautiful little, what did you call it, tart, stuck to my arm."
I join in his laughter. "Elizabeth."
"Elizabeth?"
"My name, it's Elizabeth, and I assure you I'm no tart." Chapter 11. Lachlan and I are all smiles when he leads me into the magnificent ballroom, draped in luxury. The room is masculine, smelling of rich varnish and weathered books, dark mahogany walls, and the finest champagne being served off of polished antique silver trays. As a waiter passes me, I pluck a sparkling flute from her tray.